Tim Batt, who is a comedian from New Zealand. How you doing, Tim?
I'll wear that with pride. It's so nice to see you, Emma. I'm good.
It's so good
I'm
to see you.
outside.
You're inside?
I'm
You look like you're
outside.
outside.
Yeah, I'm inside and I'm outside. I'm in flow. Because I was trying to get a nice little frame for you, but
I mean,
I'm
you
not
look
sure if the
beautiful.
lighting's actually very good. That's good. I'm not coming through just as a silhouette.
No, you're great. You've got eyes. I can see your eyes. It's like when you lean back, you get your gangster lean on, like I can see your face better. But but you look
That's gangster.
smashing, darling. And I love the flowers behind you. Are you at home?
I am. This is my casa. I can take your ranks. I'm on a bloody stick. This is
Okay.
my lovely yard. Hey,
Oh, nice.
lovely
Oh,
house.
that's
We'll probably be
lovely.
joined soon by my lovely dog who likes to get involved with stuff.
My cat's the same way. These are the
Love
things. It's
working
cool.
from home.
Oh, it's so I want to talk about that. How is working from home? Because you're a full-time comedian these days, right?
Yeah, I actually spend a lot of my time doing podcasting, but it's comedy podcasting, so I guess that still fits into that umbrella too.
Right. So how is that work going? You've done podcasting. How is it going? Tell me more about that. Like, what is that endeavor? What does that involve? How is everything going for you during quarantine?
Real fucking the same, if I'm allowed to swear. Sorry,
You're allowed
I
to
swear
swear.
a lot.
This is me, bro.
That's good.
Like, we good.
You never know. To be honest, kind of a lot more similar than other people's experience has been of going into lockdown, because
Really?
I spend a lot of time. Well, a lot of comedians, I've heard people talking about this. It's like, yeah, sitting at home by yourself, sort of anxious, half depressed, not seeing anyone for 3 days.
Right.
Try to like will yourself to do some work, but not really having a hard deadline. Yeah, that sounds like normal everyday comedian life.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. So are you with the podcast? How often does the podcast happen?
Right. So yeah, that's a good question. So I've got
And I say that to mean because, like, for those who don't know you, I lived in Auckland for my last 5 years of living in New Zealand, and I stumbled across this amazing open mic at a venue in Ponsonby, which is a richer, more snobby area of Auckland, if I am allowed to say that.
Totally.
That, and that's kind of how I met you, and somehow managed to brainwash you into being a friend of mine. But so I only know you as somebody who does, the 48-hour film challenge, but also like stand-up comedy. So I have no idea about your podcast. Tell me more.
Well, the main podcast is The Worst Idea of All Time, and I've been doing that with my friend Guy Montgomery for like too long, 6 years now.
That's Guy Montgomery for everybody who's.
That's crack up. It's a good thing his name's not Craig, or else we'd be here all day. I'll never understand the Craig thing, eh? That is not how that name is spelled.
I don't know.
That's the one thing I'm like, Americans, I'm willing to meet you halfway in a lot of stuff. I can call a boot a trunk, but I will never name a human being Craig. It's not a human name. Anyway, so Worst Idea of All Time is this podcast we've been doing for ages, and it's a movie review podcast, but the kind of hook is that the movie never changes. So Guy and I watched Grown Ups 2 for a year and just kept reviewing it week after week. And then we did a whole year of Sex and the City 2. And then we did a whole year of a Zac Efron movie called We Are Your Friends, where he tries to become a DJ. And then we did a whole year of Sex and the City 1. And now at the moment we're doing an emergency season while we're in lockdown of Home Alone 3. And it is very bad.
How do you not go insane? I mean, are you insane? Like,
Yeah. That's kind of that's the podcast. That's what it is. It's just us losing our minds over the course of the season.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And whose idea was this? I feel like this is a very Guy sort of idea.
It was genuinely both of us, I think. Like we came up with it together, and then I think I might have gone, I've heard of this movie Grown Ups, which has got heaps of famous comedians in it, like David Spade, Adam Sandler, Kevin James, but apparently it's bad. And then I think Guy was like, well, what would be funnier than doing that would be doing the sequel, and we just never watched the first one, but we only watched the sequel. I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. So then we just started doing it, and it's pretty like for a comedy podcast, it's got a pretty decent audience, and we've toured the States multiple times.
I know you stumbled in on one of my gigs randomly one day when I didn't realize you were in the country, and it like made my heart the happiest.
That was amazing, eh? Yeah, that was so cool. And we just recently released a pilot that we made for YouTube. So back when YouTube was commissioning stuff under, they were calling themselves YouTube Red, was like the premium brand, which just to this day cracks me up. Every time they had to explain, they're like, it's not porn. It's just what we're calling our subscription paid for service. It's like, okay, maybe change the name. So it doesn't exist anymore. But they commissioned this this pilot that we made at the end of 2017, where we lived in New York City underground in a sewer for a week, watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Because the whole idea is that we were like method film reviewing, so we were kind of like into the world of the film. Yeah.
Are you a ninja, Tim? Like, do you know how to fight? Like, have you?
No, we left the ninja. We left the ninjutsu stuff at the door. I feel like that's almost knocking on the door of appropriation if we start getting into that stuff. But we lived underground in a sewer in New York City. We ate nothing but pizza, and we watched TMNT Out of the Shadows 3 times a day and kept reviewing it. And yeah, so we only recently got the permission to release it, because it's like kind of, you know, the ownership question's been a bit dicey because it never got turned into a series. But we got permission, and so it's up online now, and yeah, it's like people are loving it, so that's been really cool.
Are those details on your Facebook page or on your website, or how do I?
Yeah, I've got it pinned on my Twitter. So if you go to at Tim_Batt, it's the pinned tweet on that.
Cool.
Good time.
That's hilarious. So you lived in a New York sewer for how long? A week?
For a week, yeah. And it was funny because when we were like doing the planning, the production team, I remember before we got in there, they were like, okay, so here's where you guys will be. I think it was by Prospect Park, I think. It was in an old army barracks, but like underneath it. You know, like, here's where we'll be shooting, here's where we'll be for like, 80% of the time, and here's the hotel across the road where you guys will be staying.
Oh, thank goodness. Overnight. Okay, so you weren't sleeping in there.
I was like outraged. I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, once we wrap for the day, you will sleep here. And I'm like, we're sleeping here, dudes. Like, if we say we're doing it, we're absolutely doing it. So they had to bring in these big like extractor fans to make sure the air was breathable through the night and like clean up.
Oh, so you actually did sleep in the sewer?
Hard out, yeah. Because like that's our thing. If we say we're going to do, we're legit. We're stupid, but we've got commitment.
No, I totally appreciate that. I mean, I think it's that sort of that, I don't know, the fight of the American culture and the New Zealand culture. Like when I first moved here, don't get me wrong, I love living in America. There's so many great things about living here, but the term land of the free compared to living in New Zealand makes me laugh. Like the ability to sleep in a sewer in New Zealand, easy. We can do that. Like, you don't need to like this. We do the most stupid shit back in New Zealand that you're just like, okay, cool. They're just Kiwis, whatever. Here, you're like, nope. You have to fill out all these forms. You have to do all like that's, yeah. So when I first moved here, and people are like, who do you think you are being a full-time musician, and like wanting to make it big and whatever. And I'm just like, well, who the fuck am I not? Like,
it's the big thing that I've experienced with, especially with the pilot, and that is the union thing, which is so good that it's such a like professionalized and unionized industry, film and television.
You mean in the States?
In the States, but because in New Zealand we just have like nothing even resembling that. It's such a different experience here where everyone's just like, the sound guy is also, the first AD and also the grip and also like on makeup because his sister's a professional makeup artist and there wasn't enough budget to get a separate person.
Right.
And in the States, it's like, you're not allowed to touch the camera legally. You're not the camera op, so you cannot touch the camera. And it's just such a different experience of making stuff.
Interesting. So you prefer the American way of having?
I kind of think it's good because it means that like there's more job security, people get paid correctly and that kind of stuff. But the experience of being on set, I'm just so used to like low budget or no budget, you know, New Zealand DIY, like we'll just do everything approach to film and TV making, that I kind of like that guerrilla feel to it. But the flip side is no one gets paid. No one gets paid barely anything. So yeah.
That's no, I totally hear you. I mean, I'm a DIY musician here. I try to get paid.
Yeah,
it's weird being in quarantine. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll bet you're bringing like a lot of that Kiwiness over though in your approach to doing stuff, you know.
I'm trying to, and the thing is, like, I'm trying to go back to New Zealand every 2 years to just remind myself what that Kiwiana is, because and don't get me wrong, like living in DC, we have a very strong Māori and Kiwi presence here, but there's a lot of just you lose it sometimes. Like I haven't heard. What was it? What was the comment you said before?
Top shelf.
Top shelf. Haven't heard that in 5 years. I am legitimately coming up to my 5-year anniversary living in America. Have not heard that saying for 5 years. And so like I will try every now and then to, my housemate's super American. I'm just like, she'll ask how I am. I'm like, I'm buggered. And like she's like, what? Or like I'm like, whatever, the grocery delivery person munted the milk or whatever. And she's like, I don't understand you.
You gotta be a bit careful with buggered as well, because if you hit the wrong person, they're like, that is filthy. What are you talking about?
Well, so that's the thing. Like when you scull something here, like in New Zealand, when you're drinking, and you scull something, it means taking it, bottoms up type thing. But sculling in America, depending on what state you're in, could be a sexual act.
I did not know that. This is news to me. You want to get into it, or should we just leave it at that?
It is only 7:15 here, so but
you got to tell me now.
It's fellatio.
Oh, okay. It's not that bad. I thought it was something crazy yucky.
I mean, no, thankfully not.
No,
but I wouldn't know about that though.
Of course not. You sweet dear angel, Emma.
I know, right? I've got my halo around somewhere.
You're not married yet, so of course you've never had sex in your life.
But I tell you, the fact that I'm not married means that I am apparently eligible to be hit on a regular basis.
Just get a ring. Just get a fake one, put it on, and make it really big and visible.
Okay. Good to know. Trick people into thinking that when I say no, that doesn't actually mean anything. But if I have a ring, that means something. Got you.
Yeah. Just accept that society's fucked, men are awful, and get a big ass ring to use as a prop to repel asshole dudes. Or you might get a whole other class of asshole dude who are like, oh, a challenge.
Right. No, legit. It's the struggle's real. FYI, my auntie from Iowa is watching right now, so that's exciting.
Hey, auntie.
Frank is here. He says, keep rocking in the free world. Max, who I think lives in Auckland, says hello. And Chris is also here, who I don't know where he lives in New Zealand, but he is from New Zealand. So we've got 2 Americans and 2 Kiwis watching. That's exciting.
Hey, folks.
That I know of. And now my Uncle Mark is now watching from Iowa as well. So there we go. Welcome to Tim Batt, everybody.
State.
To everybody who's ever wondered what a New Zealand accent really sounds like, listen to Tim, because I have been severely bastardized with my accent.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
I prefer it the way you say it, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, Kiwi vowels, they're horrible. I don't like them.
But we've been voted the sexiest accent in the world.
I think that was an ironic win, man. We've got to stop banging on about that. I think people kind of felt sorry for us. It's kind of like when you give the kid who got last in the sack race at school some special award. I don't think it's legit.
Oh, so you're a tough love kind of guy. I see.
That's what I'm thinking.
Keep it factual, friends. Keep it factual. Okay, so you're doing this podcast now. Is it a weekly podcast?
Right now we're doing that one every 3 days, which
Okay.
is quite a lot of times to be watching Home Alone 3. But also I've got some other shows that I either host or look after. I'm doing a sustainability podcast with this really cool woman called Waveney Worth, who went waste free for an entire year. Like, her and her husband created no waste whatsoever. She did it like 10 years ago. Yeah, crazy, eh?
Did she like get containers and like just shop it bin in, or?
Yeah, exactly. And she it was kind of like every aspect of her life she had to like solve how you do it. It's really wild. And she wasn't even a big environmentalist or anything before she got into it, but her and her husband were just like, hey, we create so much rubbish, that's weird. Let's try to create none.
Tim, it's trash. No one knows what rubbish
Sorry,
is.
trash, garbage. I beg your pardon.
That's amazing. So what did you do with her like fruit? Like banana.
Like compost.
Okay.
Compost it, turn it into soil. This was the thing. Yeah, if you can cut out all the kind of like plastic packaging on your food waste, it can go a long way. So she figured out how to do that for a whole year, and now she's like a really good environmental communicator, and she works with the council to design like waste minimization programs, and she's really connected with recycling plants around the country and all these people doing cool stuff. And she and her husband actually bought a farm that they're kind of like turning into this huge permaculture farm. So it's I'm probably going to get this slightly wrong. I really should know it by now, like off heart, but it's kind of a concept where you go organic and you get rid of inorganic fertilizers and pesticides, and instead you use all natural processes to kind of create a bit of a closed loop inside the farm. So you get like the food scraps from your fruit trees, and that goes to the chickens, and then you eat the eggs from the chickens, and the shells from the eggs go back into the compost or whatever, and the whole thing becomes super cyclical.
That's really awesome. Cool. That's so you're doing that yourself now in Auckland?
I'm here creating a lot of trash at my house as a trash person, but cutting down. But that's something she's up. But that podcast is called How to Save the World, if you want to find that online.
Nice.
Which is on my podcast, because I've got a podcast network that I started a few years ago called Little Empire Podcasts. So if you go to littleempirepodcast.com.
Okay, I'm gonna write this in the comments. Little Empire Podcasts, and it .com.
Yep.
Okay. And why .com and not .co.nz?
Because it's international, baby. It's everywhere. It's big, it's global, it's fancy, it's legit.
I love it. That's awesome. That's really cool. So that's once a week?
Yeah, that one comes out once a week, and we do different topics and stuff. It's a lot more changing than The Worst Idea of All Time, which is the same movie being reviewed
for a year.
Twice a week.
Like, I could handle that if it was like Labyrinth or The Wall or The Lion King, but Home Alone 2?
This is what makes it fun. Home Alone 3. Home Alone 2's good. Lost in New York's a good film. This is Home Alone 3, which does not have Macaulay Culkin, does not have Joe Pesci, does not have Daniel Stern. No one's it. Catherine O'Hara's not in it. It's all new. It's like a straight to VHS. Yeah, it's bad.
Are you watching it on VHS?
Do you know, last night I watched it in like VR. I have a Samsung headset that you can just like put your phone in, and it kind of makes everything sort of VR. And it was like going to the movies, but the saddest experience of that you could imagine, because it's like I've been itching to go to the cinema, but I was going to the movies to watch Home Alone 3.
Yeah.
Which was disappointing.
So can you go to the movies now? Like, you're on level 3 now in New Zealand, correct?
Yeah, we've shifted into level 3 now.
What does that mean?
Can't go to the movies.
Okay.
It's a good question. I might get some of this slightly wrong, because I've very intentionally been like tuned out of the news so it doesn't stress me out. I just absorb the bits that I need, and then I turn it all off.
I'm the same way. And I feel horrible about it, because I feel like, there's so much going on politically at the moment that is really important to know, especially in, New Zealand, Jacinda's killing it. But here, Trump's killing it, but in a bad way.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
he's killing them.
Right. So I'm trying to kind of it's overwhelming. How do you?
I hear you.
Don't.
I think you get the first. the first priority's got to be a bit of self-preservation, right? Because I think people are just going nuts at the moment, and you can't do anything if you're not good yourself. So, and I like can and have in the past fallen down the news holes of just being completely absorbed with what's going on and just glued to the phone, glued to podcasts, glued to news shows on YouTube and stuff. And it's too much, man. We're not supposed to handle that level of constant tragedy surrounding us all the time. So yeah, it's just about, I think, looking after your own threshold a little bit, making sure that you're good. But you're right, there's like a lot of guilt with that, because obviously, I mean, especially here in New Zealand, I'm in such a privileged position that I can do that. But it's about, I think, like weighing that up with, cool, well, how do I contribute? Like, how do I do positive stuff to throw back in, you know?
Sustainability podcasts, obviously. Wow, trying to say that 10 times fast. Sustainability podcast, Jesus. Okay. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So New Zealand's like, we're in a good spot, but I think people are starting to go stir crazy now, because realistically, there's only so long that you can keep the country in their house for before people be like,
I mean,
we're
coming to the end of week 7 here in DC. And you guys were in level 4 for 4 weeks, is that correct?
Sounds right. Time has become a very malleable concept for me. So how locked down is stuff in DC?
So you can only go to the grocery store or the gas station, petrol station, for anybody who's Kiwi watching.
Thank you.
You can't get a haircut, which is terrible because my ends are everything's terrible. You can go to the doctors, obviously. Or
is the supermarket weird? Are there like
you cannot go into a supermarket without a mask on. You have to wear a mask. And obviously we know that the masks don't stop the virus, they just stop you from touching your mouth.
I don't think anything like stops the virus short of a vaccine, but I think like if we had mass adoption of masks, it would be super useful.
Right. So it's been really cool because, like, in DC at least, I feel like across the entire country, people are like making each other masks. So there's still some sort of like small economy that's building within the community, which is really nice. So I've purchased a couple of masks from different people. Just be like, oh, today I feel like being tartan. What?
That's great.
Blue. So it's fun. But
I love that, like, this, basically life-preserving item is still being rolled into like consumerism and fashion and everything.
I know it's super wanky.
I think it's kind of great in a way. It's sort of like we refuse to yield our way of life, even if you're making us do all the stuff, we're still going to do the kind of commerce version of wearing a mask. It's going to be expressive and individual and...
That's true. That is true. It's bizarre because I was, for a while I only had medical masks that was given to me by a couple of friends. And like, I don't, I'm a chronic smiler. Like, I can't not, this is my inner Kiwi, my inner Fijian coming out. Like, I am the nicest person you'll meet. And so having a mask on, and I'm just like, I'm smiling at you. I promise I'm smiling at you. You can't tell.
And if you paint a smile on the top, you kind of look like the Joker, and that has the opposite of the desired effect, and people get very worried.
It's the struggle is real. So, but then people are still, being gross and hitting on you and doing okay. And it's like, how you have I could be the most horrible person. What are you doing?
Emma,
honestly?
I'm telling you, it's people trying to continue with their normal routine.
Yeah.
Being a pest, being an absolute nuisance to women without any sign that they want an interaction. People live in their everyday lives in the context.
Right now. You see it right? It's done.
There you go. Perfect. Nailed it.
Okay, so you're now on level 3. From what I've seen from social media, you can now go to Burger Fuel.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. So we've the Prime Minister got very mad at us, and
I'm sure.
we don't want to disappoint Jacinda because she's been doing a great job. So we feel very told off by mum when that happened. But there was like some video footage of people the day, I think it kind of was as well the day that we shifted into level 3 from level 4, because we've been in level 4 for so long, which was total lockdown. Everyone in their houses can't go to work, can't do anything except if you're essential. And then we had that day of going into level 3, and the like lines for McDonald's drive-through were like a suburb long, and there were all these people without masks on, just huddled around a burger fuel waiting to get some pickup takeaways. And it was stupid. And I think we have gotten better now because the novelty isn't quite as high. We can go and get stuff, but the methods, the way that we're doing it is a little bit better. I like really have I'm just playing it super safe. I'm not going out there for a little bit because I saw that stuff in the news. I was like, fuck this. I'm going to wait for this to blow over a little bit. Like everyone's going crazy out there. I'll give it, another week or so for people to calm down, and then I'll start re-emerging a bit.
I featured a podcast the other day by two guys in Rotorua who said that on the day 1 of level 3, both McDonald's ran out of food.
Yeah, the country ran out of lettuce because so many people were eating Big Macs. Like literally, McDonald's didn't have any lettuce left. They served 300,000 burgers on the first day that they were allowed to open. We're not a big country, Emma. 300,000 burgers in one day.
That's hilarious.
We absolutely, I knew that this country loved fast food, but we love fast food.
I mean, I feel like, even America's not that bad.
Yeah, I reckon we probably per capita eat more McDonald's than the US.
Which is bizarre considering the amount of there's only, the number of McDonald's between the two countries is very different. That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
That's ridiculous. So I'm very curious because I haven't been back to New Zealand for over a year. How what other has there's Denny's in New Zealand still, right? But has Taco Bell?
We've got Denny's. We've got a Taco Bell.
When did that open?
6 months ago.
I'm so upset about it. I'm so upset about that.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I don't think it's going to last because it's the novelty thing, right? They announced they were coming, everyone was like, Taco Bell. And then they announced their prices and everyone was like, wait a minute. Every movie we've ever seen that's come out of the States has told us that Taco Bell is terrible. This shit's way too expensive. It's like they mispriced the whole menu here. So I don't think.
How much is a taco? And
I can't remember. It might be like $11 or $12. Yeah.
What? For Taco Bell?
For a proper one. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. It's like we don't have that same 99-cent, kind of menu.
It's not worth
we don't have that thing going on. Well, exactly, right? This is the problem.
Oh, that's horrible. I was marveling with one of my friends the other day that there is one burger fuel here in the States. It is in Indiana. Their prices are pretty much the same. Yeah, so next time you come back, let's go on a road trip to Indiana, my friend.
Burger fuel's fine. It's I don't want to sound unpatriotic. It's not that great. It's a burger.
Wash your mouth out. Wash your mouth out. I have been there 3 times. It is a 10-hour drive.
Oh my God. They should be paying you. You should be the American mascot for burger fuel.
Okay with that. I would be more than okay with that.
#SponCon.
Oh, funny. Cool. So fast food aside,
I feel like you keep trying to ask me about level 3 and I'm giving you stupid answers.
You keep
Sorry, okay.
I don't know, Emma.
Here's the deal.
Move the fuck along.
I think half of it is that I'm not super confident because here's the other bit. So my wife is a doctor, so she has to know all of this stuff. She's a GP, what you'd call in the States, a family doctor, I think.
Exciting it is that you got married Like, I remember when you guys got engaged and it made me really happy. I know. I'm so happy for you. This is my
Thank
happy
you.
phase. I'm like, yay, all the feelings. I saw it announced on Facebook and I was like, yes, he's growing up.
I sure am. It only took 33 years. Yeah, no,
She's a
it's
doctor.
great. It's awesome. She's a doctor. And so she has to stay very on top of what's going on for work, you know, like she has to know exactly what's going on with the country and the rules and everything, which has
What
been
kind of
great
doctor is
because
she?
now she's a GP. So
Okay.
I think in the States it's a family doctor.
Yeah.
Unless is there like a special name for them?
Yeah, family doctor makes, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so complicated here. There's like so many
Not
people that
like,
they have to break everything down, you know, like you
yeah,
have the GP in New Zealand, the GP does everything. Here
yeah.
you've got the GP and then the other GP that looks after your man bits and your women bits and your ear and throat bits and like
I know that like pediatricians are a big thing in the States, but I don't think we definitely, you know, we've obviously got pediatric specialists here, but I don't think it's quite as big a thing. Anyway,
sorry.
so if ever I've got a question, I'm just like, hey Zoe, am I allowed to go to the supermarket? She's like, yeah, that's fine. You got to put a mask on. I'm like, okay, sweet, cool. So I do that. But level 3 basically, so 4 was total lockdown. 3 is what we're in now. People are allowed to start going back to work if there's protocols in place to make sure that if you're customer facing, there's contact tracing in place. So for example, cafes are opening back up now because hospitality's just been hit so hard. So they wanted to get hospo opened back up as soon as possible. But you have to like write down your name when you go to a place. Your name,
So you go to like
phone number.
Okay.
So you could go to like the few restaurants that have opened up now, right? First of all, the rule is you're only allowed 1 server per table.
Okay.
You got to be spaced ages apart.
2 meters,
if you go
right?
in, yeah, 2 meters minimum. Or I don't know what that is in feet.
It's about 7 feet.
6? Yeah, 7 feet.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the paradigms here are like you need to be 6 feet away from anybody at any given time, but 2 meters is a lot longer than the 6 feet. So it's about 7.5 feet.
Yeah, it's roughly the same. And yeah, but the contact tracing I think is the most important bit, where everyone's keeping track of like where you're going. So when you sign into a building or whatever, like you write down your name and your number and what time you're in and out. Same for restaurants and places that have like person-to-person contact, so that if we do get an outbreak somewhere, we can instantly go out and investigate all of those people, get the test, lock it all down.
That's cool.
ASAP. Yeah, which is, I think that's been like a huge focus for the Ministry of Health here, is getting that system in place.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So restaurants are open, are gyms open?
Well, and actually, like, I'm not 100% if restaurants are like open, because we've been getting like takeaways is a new thing, and that's happening. I'm not even sure if you're allowed to sit in them yet at all. That might be coming in level 2 with all those rules I just talked about.
Right.
Gyms, I'm pretty sure are still closed.
Okay.
I do not have a gym membership, Emma, so this has not been a vested interest of mine. But I'm pretty sure, I don't think gyms are open yet.
Right.
But yeah, I could be wrong on that. The main thing that I've been focused on is like venues. So music venues, comedy venues, the Classic, which is our only full-time comedy venue
place
in the whole country. Which is like all of me and my friends. I mean, if we have an office, that's it. If we have a place of work, it's the Classic. And so the Classic can't open yet, but they're preparing to open in level 2, which will be the next one. And Scott, the guy who runs it, has like, when we were before lockdown happened, he was so good at staying on top of, like, there was hand sanitizer everywhere. He brought in all of these new rules, and he was spacing all the tables hugely apart, reduced the capacity of the club so that only like 60 people could be in there instead of the regular like 140. Like, he did such a great job staying on top of everything. Yeah, so we're just waiting for everything to slowly come back to life.
Well, I mean, you say slowly, but I tell you, it's definitely going faster than here. Definitely going
Well,
faster than here.
yes and no. Depends what state you're in. Some of them seem to be
Well,
like, it doesn't exist. We'll just open up now.
well, yeah, it looks like we're going to be opening to, I guess, our equivalent of level 3 or 2 in a week here in DC, which is going to be interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
it's there's so much misinformation that is, going around everywhere. I think like around the entire globe, where just everybody's like, oh, but I heard this, and then I heard that, and then Fauci said this, but CNN said that, and
As you mentioned in my intro, I'm a big geek. I love technology, and I was awaiting the rollout of 5G with a lot of interest to see if anyone would care. I did not anticipate 50% of the population thinking that it was bringing about a killer virus. That I didn't see that coming.
I'm sorry, what? People think that
Five.
5G
You
brought
don't know about this?
brought the virus. I heard that people like I
Emma, congratulations on having not stupid friends.
I
that
mean,
you're not
thank you. I
constantly
do live in
exposed to this on
Washington,
Facebook.
DC. Let's be I've heard that people were like super you know, precarious of 5G. My phone is 5G. To my knowledge, it's just them trying to sound flashier than they actually are. But then again, I'm not a tech nerd. But yeah, I haven't heard the correlation between COVID and 5G. That's redonkulous.
That's good because it doesn't exist, firstly. But there's like this huge amount of conspiracy theorists and like DIY documentaries that have come out, and like a real big thing has been kind of disgraced researchers and scientists. So they've got these previous kind of accolades and stuff will be like such and such scientist who's, they may well have a degree in something, but then you look into the person, it's like, oh yeah, that person went insane and stole a whole bunch of equipment and went to jail. So I don't know if maybe they're the most trustworthy source for this thing. But there's a huge conspiracy theory that tons of people, particularly in America, think that there's a connection between 5G and coronavirus. And it's like, it's so worrying, the lack of people's ability to sift bullshit from anything that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of, the thing that I've been most aware of at the moment has been the correlation between people just being super fucking racist towards Chinese people as a result of this. Because our president is who he is, and he calls it the China virus, and it's been really, really gut-wrenching, like Virginia, which is a neighboring state of DC, as you know, like there are some really some pockets of Virginia that have very high density Asian communities, which I love because I miss that about New Zealand. I miss the DC is super multicultural, but there's a lot of cultures here that I miss growing up with. But like there's people who literally they've walked past me and like given me concerned looks that I'm gonna like yell at them, because
it's so sad.
It's hard, and and again, I'm trying to smile, but I'm wearing a fucking mask. So I was like, I'm sorry, I love you.
The harder you try, the more psycho you look, because suddenly you're like, it's a bit scary. Yeah, man, it's like, I think the trouble is I don't think there's an easy solution to it, because I really think a lot of the trouble that we're in, and by we, I mean you in America, has been, I think it really comes down to the education system. Like, I think there's been such a devaluation and defunding of the public school system in the States for the last few generations.
Did you know that each state teaches different things?
Yeah. And I get that, like, the states are laboratories of democracy and stuff, so you're going to have a bit of variance in the systems that you roll out, and different states are doing different things, and they have different cultures and histories. And you know, if you are in Iowa, then you probably need a good background in, you know, how farm equipment works, and basic, you know, like crop yields and that kind of stuff. And if you live in California, you're probably going to get taught the basics of coding when you're in the 6th grade. And that's cool. Like, that kind of diversity is good. But I think just the quality of public school education, it seems, as an outsider looking on, has just gone down so much in the last like 20-ish years. And now we've, like, I think that's what we're seeing the fruits of now, with like the election of a guy who just makes crazy shit up, but is so bombastic that it's like, oh, it's the guy from the TV. Cool, yeah, I'll vote for him. Name recognition. I know who that guy is. And we'll just believe anything that like 5G either creates or somehow helps the coronavirus, because there's just such a lack of like that kind of base level knowledge of just like kind of basic science and basic critical thinking skills that you need to function in a society where you're just awash with information all the time. Like, if there's one thing we need, it's that kind of core ability to sift info and what is bullshit and what is not.
I think that's what, again, that's one of the big differences between New Zealand and like the States, or New Zealand and like Australia and the States, is that the education system there, well, I can't speak for Australia, but at least the education system in New Zealand is built around acknowledging both Maori and Pākehā, or white people, for those who don't know what that means. And, you know, and with that comes this ability to like, okay, let's actually teach critical thinking. Let's think about.
That's so true. And it's like, I don't want to pat us on the back too hard, because it took us a freaking long time to shake that, you know. And it's not like we're doing a perfect job of it yet, but we're starting to address our recent colonial past. And teach the actual history of New Zealand and what that sort of looks like and what it felt like for the first people here. But you're right. I think when you have that kind of, when you're teaching that dualism in schools, that we live in a Pākehā society, like predominantly, and when you get taught that there was a whole other way that society functioned before white people came here, and they were incredibly violent and took things over and killed and raped and stole land and destroyed a whole culture, I think it does give you an ability to re-examine stuff later on, because you're like, oh man, all these things that I took for kind of granted about the world that I live in and my existence is built on this really complicated and awful past. So I need to kind of like constantly re-examine that. Like the lack of education that seems to be taught in schools about Native Americans and that whole experience in America is so heartbreaking, because that's a genuine genocide that happened, that like founded the country. And this is, you know, everyone knows about Declaration of Independence and the Civil War, but like the actual founding of the colonial state of America is such a horrific story, and it's just like not told at all. It's so not addressed. It's crazy.
I mean, I know that there, like, DC has a lot of the Smithsonian museums, and there is like a Native American museum, but like it blows my mind people still call them American Indians, for example. Like, really? But
and all like just based on the fact that Christopher Columbus thought he landed in India when he got there. Like, it's all just based on that one thing, and that still persists now.
Blows my freaking mind. But yeah, I think, you know, that history is in the museums, if you like museums and want to spend your Saturday in a museum. But otherwise, people just aren't, you know, engaged in that conversation. They don't want to be, until, you know, the pipeline comes into play, and then you've got Native Americans that are here, you know, protesting, and that's when the MAGA hats come out and start saying, you know, whatever. It's just it's really, from a social studies aspect of things, it's such a bizarre time to live here, especially when you look like someone like me that could be Native American, I could be Black, I could be
Do a bit of code switching
Spanish.
depending on where you are.
I could be Ethiopian. You've got no idea.
Yeah.
It's and then seeing how, you know, the police interact with people. Like, I'm still this, you know, talking about being super Kiwi still. I still wave at the cops when they drive past.
Yeah.
Still. And
I'll bet
all
that
of my
freaks
friends.
them out.
Yeah, totally. It freaks the police out. It freaks my friends out. Like, what's going on? I'm like,
Well,
oh,
so for the Americans watching, like in New Zealand, our cops do not have guns. They don't. We do not have an armed police force here. They have to like go and get, if some shit goes down, and shit goes down periodically here, they have to like go to the station and get the gun, or call the guy in who's got the gun. I think we've got 2 guns. There's one in the North Island, one in the South Island, and we just have to like drive it around. But it does.
Yeah. Sounds
and
right.
again, like, I don't want to pat us on the back too hard, because it's not like our New Zealand police force has a spotless record by any stretch of the imagination, but it just, in terms of that trust of the community and the police force, it's so much higher. I think that's as a direct result of them not being armed. And there was after the Christchurch shooting last year, there was these year?
Like, that was 2018.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're right. Yes.
I was like, wait, what?
Doesn't exist anymore. We brought in these like kind of SWAT teams that were doing patrols with guns and stuff, and there was such a huge reaction to that when that happened from New Zealanders. We're just like, we're not into that shit.
Yeah, I think that the first time I used to sing at a sandwich shop here called Potbelly, which is like a much tastier version of Subway, and they had like this music. It was the weirdest job, super fun. But my first time ever being confronted by the police with guns was then. I was singing, and walked in a policeman, and they had a gun on their holster, and that was like I knew that they existed here. I just hadn't really paid attention to them, because I look at people's faces, right? When I'm performing, I'm just like, okay, I'll look at whatever I want to look at. And then, oh shit, there's a gun in like 3 meters away from where I'm standing right now.
It's such a weird thing to normalize. And I'm like seeing all these news articles and stuff about these white protesters who are turning up at town halls for councils and state governments that are enforcing a lockdown, because, you know, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And these protesters coming out waving like freedom flags, carrying semi-automatic rifles, and it's like, what is, like, how is this happening in a functioning society? It's such a strange thing.
It's welcome to the land of the free, my friend.
yeah apparently.
Because viruses get intimidated by bullets. If you weren't aware, you can kill a virus with a gun.
You can shoot coronavirus.
Yeah. When all else fails, guns.
Should we pivot to something more funny, man? Should we
talk
about something light? Okay. Oh, well, let me tell you about a project I'm doing. How about that?
Tell me.
Okay. So when lockdown got announced, so this was the context, right? Me and all my friends were gearing up to do the comedy festival seasons. This happens once a year, around this exact time that we're in right now, and it starts in Australia. So the Melbourne International Comedy Festival goes first in the month of April, and I think Melbourne's like the 3rd biggest comedy festival in the world. Huge.
That sounds all right. Yeah.
Thousands of shows, hundreds, if not thousands, of individual acts putting on shows. Just like the whole town gets taken over. It's amazing. It's so much fun.
I love Melbourne. So Melbourne and comedy together, perfect.
It's like I reckon it might be the best city in the world. I love Melbourne. It's so great.
I've very never moved there. Yeah, sure.
It's so good. Gearing up to go to that, flights booked, accommodation booked, posters printed, flyers printed, good to go, Facebook ads rolling out, selling tickets, like already selling tickets, about to go. And, this whole COVID thing is starting to hit. It's like it was over in the rear view mirror, or, it was way off in the distance, and then it was kind of getting closer, and there were more news stories. It was like, oh, okay, this is a real thing. And then suddenly Melbourne cancels, then the Sydney, oh, well, actually then New Zealand Comedy Festival Council cancelled. And then the Sydney Comedy Festival cancelled, and like rightly so. But then suddenly this whole kind of 2 or 3 months of the year when we were all supposed to be making all of our money for the rest of the year, and like sharpening our skills and creating an hour show where we've got like all our great material, just gone, just instantly, like within about 2 weeks, the whole rug was just pulled away. It was like, whoa, shit. So super disappointing. And I just know from experience that if I get bored, I go insane. So I was like, okay, I need a project to keep me busy. So I started, I'm doing this web streaming show called Happening twice a week. And it's like an hour and a half show.
You're doing a podcast on sustainability twice a week. You're doing a movie review 3 times a week, and you're doing another podcast.
No, not quite. I'm doing sustainability once a week. I'm doing the movie review one a little more than twice a week, and I'm doing this live streaming show a couple of times a week. And yeah, you're right. It is too much stuff. Like it's gotten a bit much, but but it's better than being like, if I was bored, I would, I get very bad if I'm bored. So yeah, the whole idea with Happening is like, I was kind of just going, okay, what sort of skills or assets do I have that, we can kind of make something that can take people's minds off things and just serve as a bit of a fun, entertaining distraction. So I just solicited for anyone to send me their stuff, like short films, comedy sketches, music videos, songs that they haven't got music videos for, little bits of animation, bits of writing, like people are doing cooking shows, and they just send this stuff in. And I kind of am hosting this live stream and just like playing through the content, talking to the audience, playing games, doing segments. And it's really cool. It's like a kids show, but for adults.
I love it. I have a new single coming out in 13 days. I'll have to send it to you before it gets released, and you can, if you want to.
What was the first bit of that? Sorry? It just cut out a little bit.
I'm releasing my next single in 13 days. So I might have to send it to you.
Yes, please. That would be awesome. Yeah. It's been so fun playing people's music.
I mean, we try. It's a very aggressive song. I don't know if you remember much of my Static Era days, but this is very much like along the lines of like that
throwback.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's not a Static Era song at all. It's just something that I just dredged up from the past and was like, I'm gonna just, because I get typecast here a lot as like the soul chick because I'm brown. So every hip hopper wants me to do like, the chorus of their latest rap track or whatever. Or I don't even know that my brain isn't working today, but so I'm really excited about that. But I just had the best idea. I am releasing a single every 6 weeks at the moment.
Whoa.
Do you and Guy, when you get down to level 2, for the entire of 2020, I'm releasing new music. Would you and Guy like to do a music video under the guise of one of my songs?
Yeah, man. If we can like cram it into this insane schedule that we've both created for ourselves, absolutely. Yeah.
Only like it doesn't have to be released until November, but that could be really fun.
Oh yeah. I'd love to do a music video for you. That'd be
You can just pretend to be me for the entire video, and I won't be in it at all. It'll just be you and Guy. It'll be hilarious.
Awesome. So just a little bit of like brown face going on, and I'm sure we'll get away with it, and it'll be fine.
Cultural appropriation 101.
This is how Tim gets cancelled. I've been skirting the board for so long. This is how it happens.
That's awesome though. Like I'm so like, I don't know. It does what's that program called? What Now still going in New Zealand?
That's so funny you bring that up because that's exactly what someone said. They were like, this is like What Now, but for adults.
That's awesome. I was hoping. That's amazing. Can we stream it here in New Zealand? Sorry, in DC?
Absolutely. It's everywhere. I made a website for it, so it's just easier to like find. So if you go to happeningshow.com, it's there.
Happeningshow.com. Okay. Yeah. Happeningshow.com.
And I've done like 15 or 16 episodes of it now. It's been a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And most of it is like me screwing stuff up because I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm teaching myself how to live stream as I'm doing it. So everyone's like, hey, Tim, your sound isn't on. I'm like, oh yeah, I go to the microphone on. Or like, Tim, we can't hear the guests. It's like, oh yeah, I got to hit that button. So
is it
it's
a live
nightmare.
podcast? Is it
Yeah, it's a
live
live stream.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but all the episodes are like saved after the fact as well, because it's through
Right.
YouTube. So it just saves it in so you can watch it later.
How are you finding the differences between YouTube streaming and Facebook streaming?
Streaming is a whole new world for me. So I'm like, I've never done Facebook streaming before. I've never done YouTube streaming before either. So I'm just learning all of this stuff now. It's like a whole trip. I should get notes from you on how to do it properly.
I mean, we can talk. Do you feel that, so like the new normal that we're moving into, do you feel that this is something that you are going to keep on doing, even when you get back down to level 1?
Yeah, definitely. Not as much. So I probably won't be doing like twice weekly shows, but I'd love to keep happening going for like a weekly show. And at the moment it's hard because it's just me in my garage, looking at a camera. But as soon as we can open up a bit more and people can come in, like it's fun to do now, but it'll be so much more fun when I can have co-hosts and like people doing live music there with me.
That's
it'll just
awesome.
really change the vibe of it, which I think would be cool.
You're incredible, Tim. You have this amazing energy about you that just resonates and inspires. And even when we're talking about horrible topics, you just have this way about you that just brings light to whatever you're talking about. It's really, I'm so excited for when you guys get down to level 2 again and level 1, and you can start playing bigger shows again. And I'll probably still be in quarantine over here in DC, but that's okay. I had my cat, so we good.
Yeah. Well, likewise, Emma. This show, all of the art that you put out into the world, all the stuff that you do, it's like, I think this is what the world needs, is just everyone needs to look after themselves and make sure they're not going too much above their capacity. But if we can really try to keep creating and keep looking after each other and keep connecting with people, I think that's going to be the thing that saves us through all of this.
1000%. Cool. Well, that takes us to our time today. If you are wanting to keep in touch with Tim, Little Empire Podcasts, it's plural.com, and happeningshow.com, or just look him up, Tim. I'm
Tim
blanking on his name. Tim Batt. I was like, Tim.
You're
my brain's not working. Tim Batt with 2 T's on Facebook and Instagram and the Twitters.
All the bullshits. You can find me everywhere.
This is what we do, man. We're all about saving the world one social media platform at a time.
Yeah, we're using the tools of the evildoers against them. Take that, Zuckerberg. I'm gonna go on Facebook about how bad Facebook is. Right.
Because that's not contradictory at all. Anyways, any last words before we sign off for the evening or daytime?
Just to love yous, love all yous, love you watching, love you making, love all yous.
All the love. Te aroha, koutou katoa. Be good. Be kind to your mother. Spread love like a new virus that is never going out of fashion. And call your mum.
No matter what comes my way, I'll be smiling every step I take. I'm a legend, make no